starting your life. There we are. There you are, Susan.
There we
See
are.
you in all your loveliness.
Cool.
Does that look good?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit
think
more
it's
like
on.
that.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, cool. I'll come over.
Do you mind? I just feel like I realized this yesterday.
You do whatever
You
want.
can, so you know how it's a mirror image right now?
Yeah.
There's a way to make it not be that way.
Really?
To where, because all the words, there you go. Now it's the actual.
Oh, look at us.
Gosh.
Now
Praise the
it
Lord.
says Shock City Studios.
Instead of, it's Jack's,
Instead of the backward version.
right.
Scooch
Whatever
it
that
a
is.
little bit more, I think.
Your way?
Yeah. No, other way. There, I think we're good.
Okay.
Does that look good?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Cool.
Should we squish it out? Here, let me play with it.
Okay.
You know, squish it. That's my official term. Ooh, there. I think that's better. Okay.
Cool.
Hooray! Here we are. Gonna do a podcast.
Gonna do a
Hi, everybody
podcast.
out there. You're gonna learn about healthy things today. Healthiness. It's important. I have so many things I want to talk to you about, but I'm gonna wait. I gotta wait till we do podcasts. I could like just jump in and start
We're about to jump in.
talking, but we'll wait to the good stuff. We want to have it like organic.
Okay.
All right, are you going to be ready soon, Sam? Should I be paying attention? I'm paying attention now.
Be ready and
Susan
Here,
Caciano.
moments.
You got it. Caciano. It sounds like you should have a restaurant.
I mean, that's my biggest dream.
Actually,
Actually, I don't know. I think that restaurants, I think it's like you're married to that thing.
You are.
Like it's a,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could totally be in all the way.
It's like your day starts early and
Oh,
ends late,
man.
and
And it's like slightly, it's thankful, but it's also thankless. Like I feel like that there's, you got to do it with like all your heart.
It's a tough business.
yes.
I've never gone into that business, but I watched it. I mean,
Okay.
and I used to work at Sydney Street Cafe. That was my gig during college, which I loved.
Amazing.
And it was owned by Tom and Lisa McKinley at the time, who since sold it. But they were like amazing people, amazing business people, smart.
Yeah.
To this day, like things I learned by watching them do that business, it's like I learned, you know, how to run a
Exactly.
business and how to be, but they were
priceless.
married to it for a
Yeah.
long time. Now, they worked kabillions of hours and then ended up where they could retire earlier and do other things, but they worked a lot of hours.
Yes. Okay.
A lot of hours. And then they were open for lunch and dinner for a long time, and then at a certain point they did just go to dinner.
Okay.
They're like, yeah, we're done with this week,
It
the
can't be
entire
a
day.
24-hour
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
They're like, let's just go to dinner. We can figure it out from there.
Exactly. Okay.
Cool. You sound good. Can I have you talk real quick into the mic?
Sure. What would you like me to say?
That's perfect right there.
Actually,
Okay.
Sounds
sing.
great.
Can you do a
Can I
song?
sing? I am the least vocally tuned person you'll meet. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want me singing. Not unless it's like a comedic kind of thing.
Right. I'm with you, Mich.
Okay, cool.
Tell me when you're ready.
All right. Here we go.
Hi, this is Mich Hancock, and you are listening to Mishmash, a place where I get to talk to the weird, wacky, wonderful people of this world, people I adore and want to know more about. Today, my guest is Susan Caciano. She is with Yellowbird Nutrition, a company that believes nutrition applies to the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. They use an intuitive eating, plant-forward approach that transforms blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. I will try that again. That
Just go for the
transforms.
top.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Just go.
One second.
Well, should I just go to they use? What do you want me to do? You
can
tell
just
me.
Go to, just start the use.
All right. They use an intuitive eating, plant-forward approach that transforms abstract theory to practical action into daily routines. They promote a health at every size practice, which I love that, Susan. I love that idea.
It's really essential, I find, in helping people make peace with food, because I think like we're kind of fish swimming in the sea of our culture, and I think it's really hard to sometimes see that the water that we're swimming in doesn't accept body diversity, and I think that it's just something that I hope to kind of bring to every person I'm working with, to just at least have them just kind of consider the culture that we're living in, and bringing more voice to how important it is to know that we are in the midst of really a healthcare crisis, that I think at the root of it is really not a full acceptance of the different types of bodies out there, because people are going to live with different BMIs and different body fat percentages, and we're not like all the iPhone 6 trying to like be in the same, eating the same thing, looking the same way. It's like we're humans. We're inherently all very different.
I love that you say that, because as a mother of a teenage daughter, and I'm going to give myself a thumbs up because my child has no food issues and no body image issues, but
so amazing.
There's still times where she'll say, oh, I wish I had bigger lips. I wish I, and I'm like, those are all like trendy things. Like, you can't match your body to the trend. So right now the big booty is way in, right? Thanks
Everyone's
to Kim Kardashian.
Yes.
Everybody's like, I really wish I had a humongous booty. When I was growing, I was like, no way did you want a big
It was like
booty.
Twiggy. It was like the different look. Yeah, exactly.
And so you can't like make your body do things that it just wasn't meant to do, and I would not recommend going to get it surgically done either. You know what I mean?
So on point, yes. Exactly. But some people do, there's so many routes I think that women and men go through to kind of manipulate their body, and the effects of just wanting to feel better about themselves and wanting to kind of gain more control of hard things that are happening in life. And so I think it's, it definitely has multiple layers, but I think that we just do kind of start really wanting to get to know someone's food story, because I think that everyone is really a product of the environment they grew up in, the sports teams they were on, the coaches they had. There's so many voices that inherently contribute to someone's relationship with food and their body. So I think we start kind of dissecting that and asking some of those questions to just increase that awareness of, why do I do the things I do?
Right.
And is that actually working for me?
Right. And that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of digging on that, right? Because sometimes, it's like you start to get back to not only your history with food, but there's probably like beyond that, the family history with food. They've done studies. I mean, they've done studies about, and I can't recall, but some little island. I remember one time there's a whole, do you know about it?
Are you thinking blue zones, or is it something different?
It was a study that they had done where they had figured out, like, because of a famine that had happened on this tiny little island years and years and years ago, like before the generation that was there, that it had affected the people on that island generations after. And, so it kind of goes to show you, like, the memories that your genes hold and the whole bloodline thing. It's really interesting. So sometimes I'm sure there's people that come to you and they're like, I don't know why I have this issue, but you still have to figure it out, right?
Right.
Because you don't want to live with it.
Exactly. And I think that once we do kind of figure out the root of it, like that can kind of only get you so far. So I also don't want to like paralyze a person into like, we've got to figure out the exact root and then we're going to be okay.
Oh, right. No.
Like,
of course not. Of course not.
Yeah, because it's like we do want to translate that into some practical steps. And I think that that's really when you start to just like kind of start to take a breath with like, okay, even though despite maybe some of this baggage that I've had with emotional eating or binge eating or even just feeling like I'm not at peace with my body, I think that we can really start to translate that into a place of less judgment and less criticism. And I think that that's really when the change starts to happen, is changing some of the language from critical to compassionate.
So I'm going to take, what you got to tell me what blue zone is now.
Okay.
Because that's in my head now, and I want to know what blue zone is.
Okay. So a blue zone is an area of the Earth, I guess, that was researched, and they found that there's kind of the highest concentration of healthy living, longest living people in like within that geography. And so say Loma Linda, California is one of them. And it's an area where there's extremely high levels of walkability. They have great community connection. They find that the people that you live next to are friendly, like you're on good terms with each other. They find that there's places of spirituality close by, that there's healthy food nearby, kind of all these different factors that really are biggest contributors into health and longevity. And so they call this a blue zone. I think that Naples, Florida is kind of on its way.
Really?
So there's different areas. They're smaller in the U.S., but I think that there's different areas of Italy for sure. And they're just areas that they have the biggest concentration of centenarians, people living over 100. And they find that all of these factors are so essential in someone's health and well-being. And really that food and exercise are part of the equation, but they're actually a really small part of the equation as opposed to someone's sense of community, someone's sense of getting a hug, or someone really grabbing their hand and acknowledging them versus the pass by on the street and not being known. And kind of all of those people or all of those layers contribute to how you experience stress in your life, how you experience like a sense of resilience. So I think it just really is fascinating that those places exist and are growing, and now there's kind of science around them.
Right. Well, here's what I love is, and I've talked about this before, is the difference between interactions and transactions. And transaction is just like, you go, you buy something, but the interaction is you're talking to the person that that's behind the register, or you're saying hello to the person you're passing on the street. And I just have always been an interaction person. I don't know why, but it's just the way I do know why. I think it's because I really do feel like I know everybody. So
I get that from you.
Yes. So I mean, I can never have met you before, but I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm friends with you already because we're humans, and we share this space together. So we're friends. But I think that has a lot to do with my healthy outlook on life and how I am in the world. I feel very comfortable with, I mean, I don't have any hair. I'm super comfortable with being a person without hair. I'm like, okay with that. It's just, that's how it is. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, I do want to explore at some point, like, is there something I can do? Like, does this say anything bad about my health? But it doesn't really. Everything comes out pretty good on my, whenever I hardly ever go to the doctor, and I'm hardly ever sick. But when I do, they're always like, oh, you're really healthy. I'm like, I know. But I think it's the outlook. The outlook you have on life is a huge factor.
Exactly. And your outlook, I can tell already, Mich, just not knowing you so well, but getting this like small experience with you, that you are so connected to the people around you. And I think that has so much more to do than what a physician taking blood tests can inherently like connect or like understand about you. So I think I also like really like to put people as like the CEO of whatever healthcare team they're on, because I think sometimes it's easy to go into an interaction with a physician or a chiropractor or even dietitian and kind of feel like a little bit like a victim, or just like, oh, I'm having all this stuff happen to me, or I'm getting all this information. But I think to really kind of switch that conversation to empower you and say like, okay, yes, this is one opinion, and I'm not sure if I'm okay with that. So I'm going to kind of see what else is out there. So I think that we just have to keep you as the person in charge of your health information.
I love that. Yes, absolutely, because you really are. In many ways. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with Susan Caciano. Yeah, I want to talk about the whole intuitive thing.
Amazing. So
yeah, because I love the whole intuitive thing. It's how I live everything.
I love that. This is so meant to happen, Mich.
Well, I know.
Yes.
Well, Angela.
I know,
I mean,
right?
when Angela tells me that I'm supposed to meet someone, I already know I'm
like
supposed to.
Yes.
Because she is, well, she's one of those people that just gets the connections. She just gets like, oh, I need to connect with this person.
It's like you two would
and you can
get
trust
along.
that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I love that you know Angela. That's
She's
great.
a very cool person.
She is a very cool person. That's awesome.
They were on her
too.
Big Wide Sky people were. I still got to get the podcast out, but I've been very preoccupied with TEDx things.
Got a lot going on. Is that kind of all? Is it mostly done with?
Yeah, I mean, we had that event, and so now it's just like, we're all starting to breathe again. I mean, literally, this morning is when I just started to breathe again. I think yesterday I was still all kind of foggy and out of it. And,
you needed a recovery
you know,
day.
oh,
yes.
because you're just like, go, 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 do the event. Okay, the event's over. And then you're like, I can't function for a while.
No, you just needed to put your feet up for a second. Yes.
Yeah, I've been Stranger Things. And
oh my gosh, we watched 2 episodes of that last night. I was like, this is the most perfect timing for a series to come out. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Right.
It's such a great series.
It is. They really make the 80s on point in that. Even like the film they use is
I know.
I'm watching this
brilliant.
In 1983. Yeah.
And how they kind of took little elements from different things that, you know, during that time, like
the
different
Reagan
cultural.
Bush.
Did you notice that? Because that gave you some insight into the parents, right? Like, this was Mondale Ferrero house. There's it was really interesting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Are you ready for us, sir?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Here we go.
And we are back with Susan Caciano of Yellowbird Nutrition, and I want to talk intuition.
Awesome.
I mean, that's one of the things you talk about is that intuitive eating, which that really does make you the CEO. Like, you don't have to listen. You listen to good advice, but it may not necessarily be the advice for you.
Absolutely. And I think that when we apply this to food, this is really what makes or breaks our sense of peace with the way we eat and with our body. So when we're really thinking about what is intuitive eating, because I think this is a somewhat new term to people in the Midwest. This is actually a form of health practice that has been going on in Los Angeles, kind of California, for really the past 25 to 30 years. It's big in the Boston community, but it's still really just kind of trickling into the Midwest, like most things.
It takes a while for things to get here.
Exactly. So really intuitive eating is the practice of listening to your own body signals when making decisions around food rather than taking direction from an external source, like Dr. Oz or like a traditional diet. Like these are external sources that are really, in the long term, disconnecting you from how something feels in your body or whether or not it's right for you. And we know that the inherent flaw of listening to external sources is that they're directly tied to kind of chaotic experiences with food.
Right.
So we really know that when we're tuned in internally, which means listening to your hunger, listening to your fullness, and respecting those as kind of those true north signs of, is this something that I want to be having? Does this food feel good for me?
Right.
And that really establishes more of your wellness of who you are as an eater versus, well, I don't eat gluten-free and I don't eat this way, but I do eat this way. And those are kind of all like the externally driven things that are more kind of like that fine-tuning that can be helpful in a therapeutic sense long term. So really that's what I help guide people through, is how to eat more confidently and intuitively. And then if it makes sense for them, exploring kind of plant-based nutrition as a therapy for maybe different disease states that are going on, or really just helping you make food decisions from a place of self-care versus self-control. Just because I think so much of our interactions with how we eat are based off of control.
Yeah, right, which is really hard. And it's interesting. I mean, so I know I eat intuitively.
Awesome.
Because my husband's the cook in the family. So can you even imagine what I put him through? Because he'll say, "What do you want for dinner tonight?" I'm like, I don't know yet. I can't feel it yet. You know, and then later it's like I will say, really tonight I just want some roasted vegetables and some bread.
Totally.
And that's all I feel like. Like I want that. Mm-hmm. But this morning we were talking and I said to him, you know what's really weird is lately I've had a thing about chicken. Like I don't want anything to do with chicken. Like something's wrong. Like something's wrong with it with me. I don't know what it is. Like I want to stay so far away from chicken right now. And I have no reason other than my body's like, don't eat that.
This is not right.
Do not eat it right now.
You kind of have this inherent sense of like what's going to feel good for you, what's going to energize you,
right?
And what's going to leave you feeling satisfied. Because I think that we also really look at intuitive eating as having foods that give you pleasure and really knowing that that is such an important part of the eating experience that often gets overlooked.
Right.
And we can eat just with our minds or eat just for health, and it really only gets us so far.
Right.
And so I think there's this part of really enjoying your food that's, I think, really how we're designed to experience food. Be around people that we want to be around when we eat, when we can, choosing foods that just actually taste good, even if for a moment, like, we're just not caring about nutrition at all. Like, that's also really normal.
Yeah, right. Well,
Exactly.
and you're bombarded with stuff, and then that, and I have a whole thing with what I talk about with candy, because I love candy,
Yes, it's Halloween.
but I celebrate it when I eat it. Like, it's a big celebration because I don't want to put negative energy in my body. I don't want to be like feeling bad that I'm eating candy. So instead I'm like, this is awesome. I love this candy so much.
Oh my gosh.
Yay for the
Mich.
packaging that's so beautiful. Yay for the families that are being fed because they made this candy. You know, I just like want to celebrate it, because then I have this whole thing about, then you're not putting negative energy in there. Then your body's
Exactly.
like, ooh, this is the best licorice ever made.
Exactly. And really, when you look at that from a metabolic standpoint, we are meant to digest food in a relaxed parasympathetic state. And so when we switch that, when we're feeling guilt about our food choices, we flip the switch. We get into the sympathetic state. Cortisol is flowing. We're more likely to store that food as fat. We're more likely to release those insulin levels that our body releases when it's on edge, because we don't know if it's okay to eat the candy.
Right,
So I think that, like, to really create a relaxed environment and a relaxed mental space before you start eating is so supportive to how the body is meant to break down and metabolize food. So I love that that's already a part of your process, Mich, where you're just like, we're going for the candy, we're happy about it. And, like, honestly, it's like, yeah, let it be the thing and move on. And I think that that's just a spot that is going to, like, just help you thrive so much long term. That's when you're not kind of like caught up in the nitty gritty of, well, let's dissect this food and how much carbohydrate and sugar does it have.
How many calories are in this? And
Exactly. And I think that that's really when we know that, like, okay, the mind is taking over this eating situation and the body's not really present with it. And so I think that that's a big part of intuitive eating, is just strengthening the mind-body connection. And I think that that's really when you see people have that long-term success, because you've got to be dialed in both to have that, like, long-term, like, success with food.
And so I keep hearing this term, plant-based. Is that the new way to say vegetarian?
You know what? Yeah, that is such a good question, Mich, because I think that really
Thank you, Sam. Sam told me to ask it.
Great. Yeah, so plant-based is kind of a more culturally friendly way of approaching this term of, like, veganism, or, like, okay, is that really, like, a friendly term, or is that kind of more like angry vegan? Like, you're just like the people that are
like, do you have an image in your head of, like, the total hippie person that's like, you're eating me, you're a killer, you know?
Exactly. And that you can be vegan and eat Oreos and Fritos all day. Like, that's very different than being plant-based, which has the inherent benefits of increasing your phytonutrient and phytochemical absorption in the body. When you're choosing foods that have higher fiber and are going to fill you up and prevent cancer, when you're choosing foods that are close to the ground to mitigate inflammation, like all of these things where it's like, yeah, you're actually getting the therapeutic benefit of eating foods that are supportive and therapeutic for the body, versus, I guess, vegetarian or veganism, which you can really be, you can just be eating junk food all day and not really be supporting the body. So I think that those are, like, just kind of two different ways, or kind of just a more updated way of approaching a more veg lifestyle from a therapeutic sense, and being clear on those differences.
That's so true. And I actually had a friend a long time ago, and he became a vegetarian, and he was doing it to lose weight, and he wasn't losing weight. And he's like, I don't understand. I'm like, because you drink root beer and have potato chips for lunch.
Yeah,
that might be vegetarian, but that's not necessarily the way you're going to lose. Like, like, part of, I think, being a vegetarian also means you're thinking in a healthy way about food. You're eating healthy food.
Right.
You know, like salads, rice and beans, not root beer and potato chips.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because another part of the work I do is empowering people in their cooking practice. And I think that a lot of people grow up on veggies that either come from cans or overly cooked, or they're just like, I don't like vegetables because I've never tasted a good vegetable.
Right.
And I think that maybe don't have the confidence that they're able to cook a really delicious pan of roasted vegetables that they will gobble up, and it will be better than their bag of chips, or more satisfying. And so I think that that's another part, is just starting to cook. That was probably one of the most impactful parts of your own health journey, is knowing that you can pick out produce, bring it home, cut it up, and cook it in a way that you enjoy.
Well, you probably get through a lot of blocks that way.
Absolutely.
You know, because that's a major block. Right? I have to cut up something and cook it.
Right.
You know, I saw something the other day that said, you know, isn't it terrible when you go to the kitchen to look for something to eat and all you find is ingredients? And you're like, you know, it's like, right?
Man, why isn't this a meal?
You know,
yeah.
So it's making it easier to learn. You know, if like, okay, there's ingredients, and so what do I do with all this? If you kind of know what to do, it would probably take away the block of, I just want to pick something up and eat it.
Absolutely. And that it can be simple, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. And there's even plant-based meals you can make in the microwave if the oven is a barrier. But there's so many ways that we can go about it. And so I think it's really getting to know, like, how much time does that person have, and how often are we going to the grocery store, and like how much time do we want to spend on food prep a week, and like we can make it work, and it's going to look different for everyone. But I think that, yeah, to kind of invite this lost art of cooking back to the game, and it doesn't have to be inherently time consuming, and it doesn't have to mean that you can't have those foods and flavors that you would enjoy. So I think that, just kind of bringing the joy and ease back into the kitchen is, I think, a really big, important part of this work.
I love it, love it. And we are going to take a quick break. We will be back with Susan. Awesome.
You rock.
Yay. This is so good.
It's so fun.
This is such great information, though.
I'm
You
so
know,
glad
I love
you think
empowering people to, you know, because so many people feel disempowered with it, right? They feel like, I can't do anything about it. I've tried. And it's like, well, no, there it is. And it's going to take some work, but, you know, it's worth it.
It's absolutely
in the end,
worth it.
You know, it's worth it to feel better about everything, and to feel like you can move through this earth without freaking out that, you know, you're, oh my gosh, there's McDonald's, you know.
Totally. Right. It's like to live with more peace, like literally.
Live with more peace around food, which is huge. It's huge for our so many people. It's like, we're going to ask questions next. Tell me when you're ready. My stomach right now is going, I'm hungry.
Yay.
I'm talking to you.
That's so good. The question part, I feel like, okay, this will be fun.
It'll be fun, and you
Okay.
can take it wherever we go. If
Okay,
you're like,
cool.
we'll take it somewhere. We'll figure it out.
I love it. This is when I need Angela's improv skills. She's like, she will go for it.
No, but these are all in your wheelhouse.
Okay.
It's not like, I'm not going to ask you anything, you know, like, how far is the sun from the...
I failed that part of school, Mich. Okay.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Okay, and we are back with Susan, and we are talking about all things yummy, healthy food. So I have a few questions for you.
Awesome.
Have you ever heard or read any just food advice that you were like, what, that is so weird? Like really, that is the weirdest thing.
Honestly, okay, so I think that every time I hear low carb, like I know it's such a like buzzword and like such a kind of like hot topic like on the subject of weight loss, but I just think like biologically, like it's the craziest thing I've ever heard, just because every cell in our body runs off of glucose, which is carbohydrate broken down in the bloodstream.
Right.
We inherently need it. So when you try to take that away, it's almost like asking for you to become kind of a crazy person around food. And so I think that that's kind of just one thing that I just want to like kind of like just bring voice to, that like this isn't supposed to work long term.
So something where people are, you know, where it's like, okay, let's just eat protein, like just eat steak all day long kind of diet. Do they lose weight because they're kind of starving themselves? Is that part of it?
To an extent, and they're probably just truly not eating as much food. I think that it's not that carbs are inherently good or bad for us, or that like we want to label it in that category. But we want to really say that a lot of people are just unsure and about just the portions of carbohydrate that like feel good in their body, or maybe they've restricted them for a long time, which makes you prone to overeat them. And I think that's where most people are kind of at, in the sense of not feeling that they can trust themselves around it, so they pull it out entirely. And I think that that's something that I just like really think can be just kind of brought to the light. It's like, we can trust ourselves around those foods, and your body really thanks you for it, and you have less mental fog, and you actually want your workout when you eat carbs.
Okay, let's say tomorrow we are going to start a fast food, plant-based restaurant.
Okay.
What should we call it?
Oh, man.
I mean, this would be hard, I know, but I was thinking about this on my way home. Like, what
power
would I
plant.
Ooh, I like it.
Maybe,
the power
Mich?
plant.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Has like
High
masculine
five.
and feminine aspects. Okay.
I like
Cool.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's nobody gets that. Nobody can have it.
No one can have it. We're trademarking
It's
that
Susan's.
today.
You hear me out there? If somebody starts it, we're going to have to go.
We're going to come after.
Our podcast came out
Right.
before you named
October 31st, 2017.
Okay, so when you've got these people and you take them from, here's the diet they have, and we're empowering them, and they're learning, and da-da-da-da, and they're going to this new way of being. Is there something that most of them experience that surprises them? Or like...
Yeah, that's such a good question. What they notice that surprises them most, I think, is how much they actually like food. Almost to an extent that I think that can be really easy when you're on this food journey to almost kind of like be shamed a little bit for liking food, or like that's like something that shouldn't happen, or like only in a certain time of life, or if you're in a certain body, you're allowed to enjoy food this much. And I think that it just really is that inherent sense of like, we are kind of designed to enjoy this thing. Like, it's a gift. And so I think that there's sort of this like, kind of like a little light bulb that comes on where it's like, I actually have permission to enjoy this. And I can be unapologetic about that.
Right.
And so I think that that's like, yeah, just a shift that I think happens. And I think that like the byproduct of that is having like a little more joy in your life. And that's such an important part of like
a huge deal.
Living well.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And with that, I mean, this whole thing with food allergies, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? Because that always freaks me out.
Absolutely.
That all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we've got all these kids that cannot have any peanuts, and
right.
That's not everywhere in the world.
Right, exactly. And I would say that, especially with food allergies, unless you have been diagnosed by a physician, to kind of like not assume that on yourself. I think that especially like gluten is a big one, or like, oh, we have like gluten sensitivities, and like really only about like 2% of the population, even less than that, is like an actual like biopsy version of that where they're experiencing like a sensitivity.
Okay.
And so I think that it's to like really get clear like with a physician and have them do an intestinal biopsy, sometimes with a food allergy that doesn't even come out correctly, and so it can kind of be a false positive. So I think that there's different things that like kind of to be a little smarter than the system and be asking for the right testing when it comes to food allergies. But yeah, I think that they are kind of more apparent now than ever, which is so challenging. But I think that also we kind of have to go back to that intuition side of things. It's like, even if you are testing positive for an allergy with something that it is kind of random, that you have never actually noticed yourself, to not kind of take that as the end-all be-all of a more restrictive type diet, because I think that that can send people off the deep end. And then there is the kind of unwanted experiences with food, such as like emotional eating or overeating, which comes from feeling like you have all of these restrictions that were just kind of came from a blood panel food test that might not inherently make you feel all that bad. And so I think that we really want to look at the individual and say like, well, how do these foods, what foods do we know make you feel good? okay, let's start there. And I think that to really kind of turn the spin and really take a positive approach with food helps people so much in the long term, because we know that mentally, whenever we create the sense of deprivation or feeling like a human is deprived with food, it's not going to go well. Like there's going to be a backlash to that.
Yeah, exactly. When it's like, no, you can't touch it. That's
right.
Well, and that's been proven again and again. They're like the war on drugs. Drugs got worse. You know, the war got worse. You know, it's like don't have the war. That again, war does not help. You know? How many times we got to tell you people?
Peace, not war. Yeah, exactly.
So leaky gut, is that a thing?
Yeah, so leaky gut is a thing, and really it starts from kind of like an inflammatory process in the gut where the tight junctions of the GI tract are kind of loosened by inflammatory components of the diet. So that can be different for different people, but I think that can release into the bloodstream and cause different ramifications through the body. And so everyone experiences it, I think, in a different way, but it really comes down to a GI issue and an inflammatory issue. So that's really where we start with like intervention, is like reducing the inflammation that's happening. So I think it's kind of where a plant-based approach or plant-based nutrition can come in as a therapy for that, but I think that it is on an individual basis.
And if somebody said, I'm going to start this plant-based diet thing, where would they even start? I mean, coming to Yellowbird Nutrition is a good idea.
We can help you out. Yes, absolutely.
But is there like a recipe place to go to?
So there's so many online resources, and I think I'm such a fan of just not reinventing the wheel. So like Forks Over Knives is a great place to start recipe building.
Okay, I just watched that documentary.
Amazing. I think that's probably one of the like top 5 Hallmark documentaries to watch in your journey. I think they do a really great job of making it accessible for
really makes you
everyone.
think.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
It's on Netflix. Anybody out there, you can watch it.
Absolutely. And their website, forksovernifes.com, does a beautiful job with recipe layouts and just kind of finding foods that are more enjoyable for you. Lighter Culture is also another one that is a recipe database that you can start kind of combing through, and they do a beautiful job of changing things for food allergies and how many people you have in your family and appetite size. And it's just like an awesome kind of logarithm that connects you to recipes that are right for you. So those are things that I help connect clients to, just so that they feel empowered on that journey of like choosing the foods.
Like actually go into the client's space and like help them figure out like, okay, let's talk about how we're going to restock the shelves.
Yeah,
right.
So that's definitely one way that we can get started. But kind of to even go in a way that might feel more accessible or less overwhelming is just like starting with a cooking class and like letting that be like, okay, I'm probably going to choose like 3 to 5 recipes that I think would like really help bolster your confidence in meal prep, and we're going to walk through each of those, and now you've got 5 go-tos that can be made in less than 30 minutes. And
there you go.
So I think it's just about sometimes like kind of learning some of the equipment that you need to have, and it can be so simple, like just like a pot and a skillet and a baking sheet. Like it's like it's not like this like big contraption process that I think is really easy to get sold to when you're just kind of website crawling, and it seems like this endless supply of things you need to get. Yes.
Why Yellowbird? Why did you name it Yellowbird?
Yeah, so Yellowbird is actually something that I was called as a little girl. I had like a lot of big yellow hair, and I would just like this kind of like Hot Mess Express thing like running around, and I had and so I think that I was just kind of like a high energy little Yellowbird girl kind of running around, and I think that's just like just a place of I think back on that with a lot of joy, just that there's just like this inherent sense of like I think just like childlikeness that I think that we all really deserve to let ourselves return to with our food experience, with our body, in so many ways that is just like experiencing a little more joy and playfulness.
Oh, that is too sweet. I love it.
Thanks,
I love it so
Mich.
much. Well, Susan, thank you. So people can find out at yellowbirdnutrition.com.
That's right.
About you and what you guys do, and to get started on that yummy, healthy journey of food and being happy and joyous around food, right?
Absolutely. You've got it.
Thank you so much for your time today. I
Thank you so much,
totally appreciate
Mich.
you being here.
It's been awesome to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And for all of you out there, go to iTunes, subscribe to Mishmash, and have wonderful, healthy eating day. Love you. Awesome. Thank you.
You're
That was so
welcome.
great. That
Was
was
it
so
okay?
awesome. Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Cool. It's so fun to speak to this. I feel like that was just one thing that, I was just like having that conversation with Angela. I was just like, I feel like this intuitive eating thing is not being talked about enough, and like just kind of like letting people have a little more permission.
Even just beyond eating. I mean, also just with because when people ask me like, oh, how do you, what do you do that you stay so healthy? I'm like, well, what I do is going to be different than what you do.
Yes.
Because like I'll take supplements that I know I'm supposed to take. No one told me to take them. It'll like show up in my head, or I'll see it somewhere and I'll get this sense of, you're supposed to do this. And oh, okay, So I've learned I just don't question it. I just trust that the universe is giving me some information that I need. And for whatever reason, I do it and it works. And even and then like at some point I'll be like, okay, filling up the supplements for the week and be like, I'm not supposed to do that one anymore. And I just stop. And so it's like there's not this one size fits all plan for everybody, because we're all very, very different.
Yes.
And there's different things going on within your body. And so you have to, if you come at it from an intuitive place, now you're like actually working with yourself on behalf of yourself.
It's so cool to see your process, even that's like something that's helped you so much just in your health journey. And I think like people are like kind of needing to hear that it's like, oh, I didn't follow like this person's plan to like take care of myself for my life. It's like, oh, actually, like I started tuning in a little more and like listening to that like gut instinct.
Because trying to follow a diet is,
oh my gosh, it's exhausting. It's like never supposed to be the answer.
No, it just really isn't. And I mean, I grew up at the time when there was like a million diets.
Oh my gosh,
there was just like it was like there was every time there was some new diet book every single week with some weird advice.
Totally.
I mean, I just remember like my mom being on the cabbage soup diet and just weird, odd
so much weird
thing.
stuff.
Where now, I mean, I can't even imagine that we would. Like, that would not, my mom wouldn't even think about doing a weird thing like that. But at the time, that's what you thought.
It was just like the flavor of the week.
Yeah, you were supposed to be doing this, and everybody's like, I lost so much weight on it. And then like, and then they all gained their weight back, so that didn't work.
Right.
And I mean,
and
really,
more. Like, they came back more.
Why would you want to eat cabbage soup?
I know. It's not. It's totally not.
For the rest
I
of
think
your
we're
life.
learning a lot from like those times of the past, but I think to even see like how much that, it's almost just like they've shifted the terminology, but it's still like kind of the same thing.
Right.
But they've put like sisterhood in it, or they put like the lifestyle change, and it's like, oh my gosh, but it's actually kind of the same
diet.
thing.
Exactly. There's this list of stuff I'm supposed to go by and adhere to every day and count calories and know how many carbohydrates, which would alone would just stress me out trying to figure out calorie counts and everything. I would be like, oh, I can't. No, I can't think about it.
Your head would literally explode. We don't want that.
Yeah, no, that would be bad for all of us.
It just would.
Well, this is great. Well, thank you, ma'am. I'm so glad to know you and know what you're doing. And I'll put you in contact with my buddies at some point when they're like done with their. They're like doing these amazing events all over the place. They've got, but it's really cool. I mean, everything that they're doing is really interesting. So I'll catch up with all that. But awesome,
cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna turn off our live. Bye, guys.
Oh yeah.